Well, coming up on today's show, the Tesla Model 3 hits the track and we can report back and follow-ups on both the Range Rover Evoque, new plug-in version of that coming soon, and the latest on a big battery storage project here in the UK. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. In fact, wherever you are in the world, welcome along. It's EV News Daily. It's Martyn Lee here on Sunday, the 25th of November. It is still sales shopping this weekend, your Black Friday/weekend, if that's what you'll be doing today, ahead of Cyber Monday. I've been through every EV story that I could find today and whittled it down to the ones that I think you need to know about today. And thank you very much, as always, to the team at myev.com. That's the place to go to learn about EVs. But also, if you're in the market for buying and selling only electric cars in the US, so normally those websites that you buy and sell cars on have just got so many different options that are wasted on an EV, and then you've got to sift through all the fossil cars. What a waste of time. No, head to myev.com, and if you haven't yet, go check it out. We'll start with something I was talking about yesterday. The Porsche Taycan being able to do multiple laps of the track. Something that Porsche say that was their focus because, okay, maybe they're not going to have the biggest battery in the world. Maybe they won't have Tesla beating 0 to 60 times. So they were focusing on something like the 0 to 200 kilometers an hour time and focusing on it being able to hit the track and go round and round and round. Well, I was talking about those multiple laps of the track and no special battery treatment required. Then today, Connor listens to the podcast in Los Angeles, and he sent me this link to a Tesla article that says Tesla, now it's started rolling out the released version of the Model 3 track mode. It optimizes the Model 3's performance and handling so it can be driven hard on a track. Well, earlier this month, Christy Morgan hit the track. Now, if you look at the LinkedIn page for Christy Morgan, Christy's LinkedIn page notes that she is an engineer and supply chain professional with expertise in materials and services procurement. So she knows a fair thing about engineering and putting lots of things together to make something like the Model 3. And she took her Model 3 to the Thunderhill Raceway in Willows, California. Now, she was at an event that was teaching people how to drive on a closed circuit, and she is a Tesla engineer. She said how she experienced no power limiting, this is crucial, no power limiting, no thermal limiting, and no limp mode, and also no brake fade as well, of course, with the upgraded brakes on the Tesla P3. So, during the duration of the course, one of the most notable images from Christy Morgan's track mode sessions is the consumption chart, the kind of printout of the chart of her Model 3 performance. You can see in one of her Facebook uploads, the Model 3 performance with track mode enabled showed an energy consumption of 890 watt-hours per mile. Depending on how heavy your right foot is, depending on what your stats will be for your own EV or your own experience, or maybe when you, if you're EV curious, when you finally get an EV, it's part of the gamification of driving to see how far you can get or not. If you are pushing it, well, there you go. That was Christy's number in her, as a Tesla engineer herself, in her P3D. Also yesterday on the podcast, I was talking about the new Range Rover Evoque, the 48-volt hybrid, the soft hybrid system. And I was wondering how long it would be before I heard about a proper plug-in version coming. Didn't have to wait too long because I hadn't checked out the press release on InsideEVs. In late 2019, it's coming. The plug-in hybrid Range Rover Evoque. Late 2019. What do you reckon that means? A year away? It's going to be the third plug-in hybrid after the Range Rover plug-in hybrid and the Range Rover Sport plug-in hybrid. The Range Rover Evoque plug-in hybrid, they say, doesn't thrill us too much because of the battery capacity, and I agree with you, InsideEVs, it doesn't thrill me much either. I was saying yesterday, if you can get an SUV that's doing 30, 35 miles electric power alone in a big heavy SUV with a good sized battery, because battery prices are coming down all the time now, and you don't have to put a massive battery in a plug-in hybrid, so you put a 20 kilowatt hour battery in there, even if you haven't got the best pricing, the best contract for batteries, which all the really big battery contracts will be driving down the prices. But even say it's something wildly high at the moment, like $150 per kilowatt hour at cell level. I mean, it's much lower than that for most people, but you would put, say, a 20 kilowatt hour pack in, and it wouldn't be many thousands of pounds. The battery pack in the Range Rover Evoque is 11.3 kilowatt hours. Oh, yeah. That's not so big. That's just a couple of Duracell batteries, right? I joke, of course. Obviously, they've done the numbers, and this is the optimal size for them. But come on, this is a car that won't even be on sale for another year. And then how long will it be on sale? How future-proof will it be in 3 to 5? When Model Y will be on sale? When the pickup truck from Tesla will be on sale? When all the VW cars will be out? We'll have more from Mercedes as well, not just the EQC, but we'll be used to seeing nice big battery pack sizes, and there's a Range Rover saying, oh, we've got a plug-in with an 11.3 kilowatt hour battery. Clearly, they know what they're doing. However, it would have been great to have seen a larger pack in there to do more electric miles and to persuade more people to go pure EV. What about storing power, though? Well, battery storage power developer Pivot Power has been granted planning permission for a £25 million grid-scale battery, and it's here in the UK. Not just grid-scale batteries, though, but EV charging as well in my home area of Norwich in East Anglia. It's a 50-megawatt battery, and it's part of a £1.6 billion UK-wide project to provide a 2-gigawatt battery network. That's going to offer demand-side response services. The announcement follows planning permission being granted in Southampton and Carlisle. I don't know anyone at Pivot Power. I've never interviewed anyone from them as well, so maybe that's something for 2019. And we'll find out how they're going with big grid-scale battery storage. And because they're going to have big grid connections at their sites, it also makes sense, they say, to have EV chargers and to have that as a revenue stream as well, because you can get nice, big, fast, fat pipes if you're going to have a big grid connection at a sensible-ish cost. I mean, their costs are anything but sensible, I imagine, if they're doing some big grid work. However, lots of battery storage as well on those sites. So if those batteries are full, you can dump a lot of power into an EV, 350 kilowatts, the latest chargers, 800 volts for the Porsche Taycan, and then slowly charge the batteries up again. So that's the good thing about having lots of batteries on site, as Tesla do at supercharging stations. And finally, today, Fred has news of a price rise on a car that lots of people are really looking forward to. But I think one of the reasons people are looking forward to it is the fact that it previously had a very, very low price. Sono Motors is the German-based EV startup behind the Sion. Now, the Sion is a solar-powered electric car. Well, let me clarify. It's a battery-powered electric car, but the car is covered in solar panels. And it's announced progress in developments of the powertrain, and that, they say, along with the battery developments, has caused a significant increase in the price of the car. The Sion is equipped with both a battery pack, which can be charged like any other EV, but also a system of integrated PV cells, solar cells, that charge the vehicle, obviously very, very slowly, but if your car's in the sun all day, and it's got solar cells on the bonnet, the roof, the sides, the doors, it all helps. According to the manufacturer, Sono claims it can add up to 30 kilometres a day of range to the vehicle. So how significant is this price rise that Electrek were talking about then? Well, Sono say it's clear now that the Sion's battery is going to have a capacity of, and they've decided, 35 kilowatt hours. And that's a good size for a small city car. They say we've opted for battery technology that is based on 51 amp-hour PHEV2 cells. That's particularly future-oriented and features the highest energy density available on the market to any EV maker to date. Since they made the decision, however, the situation has changed radically. Things like emissions scandals, diesel driving bans, climate change have all enormously increased the pressure on politicians and automobile manufacturers to move faster and quicker with e-mobility. That is leading to a rising demand on the EV market for batteries. It's put a pressure on cell availability. The cell price hasn't decreased as much as expected, and therefore, what they thought the battery price was going to be, 4,000 odd, I think, euros, it's now going to be €9,500. I'll put a link to that story in the show notes. Here we go. Let's get on to this week's question of the week. Thank you so much to everybody who joined in with this week's question of the week. We were talking about EV dealerships. How many of them aren't up to speed yet, have no stock, no inventory? Would you rather dealers got their act together, or would you like to see some sort of new model for buying your EV? your Tesla, maybe your new German era EV, maybe one of the Chinese EVs, maybe someone brings the car to your driveway, to your house, maybe to your workplace, if you spend as much time at work as I do, more time there than at home. Someone delivers the car, you spend a weekend with it, or a couple of days, they tell you how it works, but in return for that extra little bit of service, you have to pay maybe a fee or a commission if you do end up purchasing it. Well, thank you very much to everybody who's emailed in and also used myev.com feedback form to enter that way. We'll start with Colin, who's a new supporter of the show on Patreon. Colin Richardson says, I would still like to go to a dealer as I'm picky with cars. A car I might like, but maybe something as silly as dials are in the wrong place. I wouldn't be able to jump in another model car if I just bought it there and then. Of course, at the moment, you're lucky that a dealer even has a single EV, let alone multiple, to choose from. If I had to pay a fee for someone to come to your home with an EV to look at the test drive, unless they came with all of their inventory, which they wouldn't, they'd just bring that one car, I don't see it being a viable option. Thank you very much, Colin, for your contribution to the podcast. All the listeners of the podcast who went to myev.com, click on research at the top of the page, and then you can look at question of the week over the last couple of weeks. Thank you very much to those who entered that way. Mark Walker. Well, Mark says, I think paying for service is a way to get people who are already extremely interested in EVs to purchase one. I see it more as a barrier to entry than a benefit. I think, unfortunately, we are stuck waiting for dealers to get their stuff together. In Toronto, Ontario, there's an electric vehicle discovery centre, says Mark, more like a science centre for EV information and everything that goes with it. They have 9 different models on site for test drives and no sales. Hello to Disna Matter. I think the dealership model is in desperate need for overhaul. It's all about the immediate sale and not about educating the customer about vehicles. I know that people need to sell cars and that drives people away. We test drove a Tesla. It was the best experience I ever had. I'd be willing to stretch a little on the purchase price for a better experience. Hi to Phil says, I don't think I'd need or would pay for this proposed service. Once I have my preferred car, a service providing getting the best value would be his choice. And Charles Bacchus says, I think I would and others wouldn't mind paying a fee for a personal one-on-one service from someone who's very knowledgeable, a current EV owner and driver. I'm thinking about starting my own independent business to educate others who are looking at getting into EVs. Good luck, Charles. Can I just say, by the way, that starting anything to help educate other people about EVs, maybe not as easy as you first think. Maybe it takes quite a lot of work. Here's a hint. Don't do it daily. Or do it daily if you love it, but not if you're after an easy life. Anyway, moving on to hello to David. David Nye says, G'day, mate. It's greetings from down under. I don't know why I do the accent every time. I'm so bad about it. David says, well done on 300 shows. He says, avoid the dealer. We've done something a little bit similar to the latter option already. We bought our last 2 cars through a broker. We told them what we wanted. They did the negotiation, and the car was just delivered to us. That was so much better than the painful negotiating with dealers. I have no doubts that we paid a small fee for the service in commission, but the price was just as good. Thank you very much, David. Hello to Andrew Jacobs as well. Another one from Down Under. G'day, Martin. I use an Australian greeting since you're up with the lingo. Oh, yes. You see, I'm multilingual. I've watched Home and Away and Neighbours. I like the idea of EVs being brought to my door, but I'm not really willing to pay for it, you cheapskate! I like the Tesla model of selling cars. No hard sell. Just present the product, and when you're ready, you buy it online. No pressure, no bargaining. The price of a Tesla is the same for everyone. Thank you, Andrew. Nice one. Hello to our friend Phil Roberts, premium partner of the podcast from Electric Future, EF.Energy. Hello, Phil. He says, I think cost is always going to come into any purchase decision. So whilst I would prefer for someone to deliver a test drive to my door and for me to be able to drive a car for longer than 20 minutes, hopefully the saving of not running a showroom would translate into a discount on your purchase price. Interestingly, I think this will highlight some issues for manufacturers. Having had a S75 for a day test drive recently, it made me think far more about the build quality of the car. When driving Teslas for 20 minutes, you're blown away by the acceleration. But when you get a vehicle for a day, you really think about other issues, more like the quality of construction. Thank you very much to Phil. Phil is Managing Director of Electric Future. And like I say, EF.energy, if you are curious about things like solar and big commercial battery installations, go check out that website and what Phil does. Deeply impressive, isn't it? Hello to Victor. Now, Victor Woods joined in on email. Generally, I am better informed than most dealers, says Victor in Munich. I follow closely what's going on. The dealer I used for my Ioniq is an EV advocate and sold about 2% of the world's sales of Ioniqs, and over 50% of his new vehicle sales are EVs. Choosing a dealer line has a halo effect for other dealers who must be supported. Thank you, Victor. And yes, of course, there are many brilliant dealers out there, and we're not picking on them. We're saying that generally, if we're painting with broad brushstrokes, many of them aren't quite up to speed yet. Hello to Serverless Billy from Power One Electrical Contracting. I absolutely love listening to your podcast, he says, on YouTube. And I listen every morning. So, how about EVs? A better way to facilitate EV adoption is through local EV shows from local enthusiasts. Are quite knowledgeable and could organise multiple types of EV for an evening or a day for everyone to feel in touch. I love it. John Gaynor says, I'm a fan of the dealership model and knowing I have options like loaner cars, a comfortable customer lounge, and a dealer that appreciates repeat business makes the experience welcoming. When you go to the dealership, you can use their Wi-Fi, have a coffee, tea, some snacks and muffins, he says. I consider myself fortunate to have a BMW near Allentown, Pennsylvania, who's embraced EVs and plug-in hybrids. Good inventory of new and used, he says. 24/7 free chargers. Well, that's good, because we've got many dealers down here that do have free charging, but they lock the doors when they go home. And I get that you have to lock up your stock. If they've got a parking facility, they want to put the barrier down. But of course, then if you're driving past and the barrier's down, then you can't charge your EV. So if it's 24/7, if the chargers are just outside the lockup, that's brilliant. Hello to Alex Banahini. For this week's question of the week, neither fits how I bought my car. The dealers I encountered in Manchester weren't great and tried to steer me to fossil cars, so I had to do my own research by watching great shows like Fully Charged and Rural Leaf Owner before I used CarWow to find a Renault dealer who didn't want to sell me a Clio. But by the way, check out the Milton Keynes EV Experience Centre. Yes, there were many people who raised that, including John this week, aka Beardy McBeardface. Very popular member of the EV community here in the UK, always on Twitter, by the way. He says, here in the UK, we are beginning to see the start of this with the EV Experience Centre in Milton Keynes. Brand neutral, highly educated, not selling you. And you can go for short test drives for a nominal fee. You can drive your vehicle for up to a week if you want to. Not all brands are on board yet. Fingers crossed they do get involved. A far better way to choose a car and hopefully purchase it as well. Nothing cheeky about it, no pushy sales staff, and I'd like to see more of these all over the UK. Me too. How do we make it happen? Why don't we have one down here? I'm on the south coast, somewhere called Poole, next to Bournemouth. Southampton's a big city near here. How do I put an experience centre up in Southampton? If anyone knows, let me know. I'd love to be part of that project. Wouldn't it be so cool to have more than one than just in Milton Keynes? They do an amazing job there, by the way. Apparently, the British gas deal, says Mark Garnett, that I talked about earlier in the week, not quite so good. He said, just be careful. I was mentioning they're doing a new EV rate where it's cheap off-peak. He went, it's cheap off-peak, but not that cheap. So people should look into it, of course, before looking at any energy deal. As for question of the week, says Mark Garnett, dealer or home visit, go neither. Go neither. What's wrong with stores that can advise and offer test drives for no fee and a fixed price? Like Tesla. Lots of people saying they like that model. Lots of people also saying they don't like the traditional dealership model, where you negotiate a price down from the list price, and you never know if the next person that walks in the door has got a better price than you. Nobody knows if they have a fair deal, and everyone's paying a different price. Doesn't make for a very nice experience. Mark says, might be good for middleman profits, but not useful for the buyer. Hello to Ben. Now, Ben Wood got in contact on email. Best model for purchasing an EV, he says, would be having a specialist. Maybe visit you, give you detailed demonstration information. Charge would be reasonable, but maybe refunded if you went ahead and purchased the vehicle. I love that. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Hi to Fadi or Fadi Habib. I recently started listening to your podcast. Very informative, he says. Well, look, I do try. He says, my first answer to your question of the week, I thought I would make it good. And you did. It's a brilliant answer. A little long to read the whole thing, but I have digested every bit of it, and I completely think you have a fantastic point. He says, to be honest, I think the car buying has always done it wrong. I'm a car enthusiast and now an EV enthusiast. So my way of wanting to conduct sales may not meet the demands of people who know nothing about cars. That being said, I hate going to dealerships and all that kind of stuff. He says, I've purchased 3 new cars in my lifetime and have been disappointed with all experiences from all 3 brands. Not once have I gone to a dealership, had a sales staff know more than me regarding the car that I'm interested in. So in conclusion, I would say pay a really small fee for a test drive, go online and place your order for a new car. Manufacturers can offer cars at a lower price. No longer needing tax incentives. Oh, by the way, I've got 5 more. Then I've got 2 points to make about dealerships. Hi to Ryan, who's probably, if I spoke loudly, could probably hear me. He's not a million miles away from where I'm recording this at the moment. Ryan has his fantastic YouTube channel, EV Opinion. He's so natural on camera as well, and is always covering lots of different topics. Ryan says, question of the week this week. The last thing I want is a sleazy salesman turning up at my house, flogging me a car, and wanting to be paid for the privilege. I want to see more things like the Milton Keynes EV Experience Centre model replicated around the country. Well, there you go, Ryan. Look, let's have one where we live, between our houses. We can put one between. How do we get that sorted? How do we organise one? And thank you very much, Ryan. Check out his EV Opinion YouTube channel. Hi to William Rennie. Hello, William. Thanks again for a fantastic and informative week of podcasts. He says, regarding what you should do, once again, why not have EV experience centres like Canada and the UK? The staff there don't work for any particular dealer or manufacturer. They're agnostic, and you can drive them and get impartial advice according to what you want the car for, not the car they want to sell you. Checking out some of the YouTube comments, Gary Wyatt Williams says, I think the weekend rentable idea would be a huge success. Marketed as give it a try and see what all the fuss is about. Discounted enough to encourage participation with a view to further your sales. Maybe a get your money back if you buy. Yeah, I love that suggestion. A small commission for having a car over the weekend, and then if you buy it, well, you get your money back or off the price. So I love that. I love that. It's a brilliant suggestion. Thank you very much to Pixel Fairy on YouTube. I hate dealing with dealers. Tesla got it right. You go to the showroom, you test drive it, and you either use their online price, which you know before walking in, or you don't buy it because they don't have any room for haggling. And finally, hello to the limousine line in Sydney. The sooner car manufacturers distribute vehicles themselves, the better. And more of them, I think, are either starting to do it or have plans to sell direct to consumer, not through their dealership business. That's going to be a huge obstacle for them to navigate. But more are talking about having a direct to consumer relationship, not through a third party. A buyer can tick boxes on the webpage to order the car, and it gets delivered on a flat top. We'd call it a flatbed. If you make commercial-grade, low-maintenance EVs with remote diagnostics, with mobile technicians, you don't need the dealerships, say the limousine line in Sydney. Right, 2 points then on dealerships. I've gone, I have read out a lot of emails, and that was the genuine sentiment. There wasn't lots of love for them, but I must say there are excellent dealerships out there. And if you take dealerships like, actually my friend on Twitter, who is Will Adams, and if you are in the UK and you've seen him on the forums, he is Badger in Black is his name, if you like. And he has been part of that EV community for so long, and on the UK EV forums spends so much of his time not telling people who he is. I mean, if people know who Badger in Black is, he has a dealership selling EVs, but just giving impartial advice and adding to the depth of knowledge out there about EVs, answering people's problems, always going through stuff saying, oh, hey, I saw your comment on the forum, here's an answer. Spends so much of his time going out of the way, and he works at a main dealership. And when I was talking to him earlier in the year, was utterly fantastic. That's DSG in the north of England, by the way, and I think you'd have a fantastic experience if you went there, because I've got to know Will very well over this year, and it is kind of the opposite of some of the things that people have described this week on their emails to the podcast. The other thing, by the way, the frustrating thing is, so we got a Renault Zoe, maybe for my wife. Was it a month or 6 weeks ago, when it was from a main dealership down here in Poole in Dorset. They're called Westover Renault, and all the pictures of the car online when we test drove it had an aerial, right? And then when she picked it up, because it's her car, so she went to get the car, she was so excited, she drove it home, delighted, had a lovely experience when she was there. I came home from work that day and I went, "Where's the aerial?" On the Renault Zoe, little black stubby aerial. So, I don't know, I didn't even clock that it didn't have one. So I called them and said, "Where is it?" And they're like, "Oh," I said, "it's in the pictures that you put online, and it isn't on the car you sold us. Can we have one?" And then the response was really disappointing. The response was, "Let me have a look out the window, see if we can take one off another car." "Oh, no, there's none there. I'll order a new one for you." So I'm wondering if that's what happened to ours. If they needed one, it got taken off of ours. And so we still haven't been able to listen to DAB digital radio. What is that, 4 weeks? Maybe more? I should look at my dates. I don't want to go in too hard on them. I keep calling. I keep saying, "Can you give me an aerial?" I mean, I could just buy one. I know I could buy one. They're not crazy expensive. But that is the worst of the dealership experience, when you keep calling. And it's like, I'm sure it's not, I mean, it's definitely someone's fault. But they're all nice people that I met. It's just crappy customer service. And you're like, at some point, I just want someone to say, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened here. It's here waiting for you." But I'll keep calling, and we'll see. I mean, I could just buy one myself, but I really don't want to. And that's the worst of the dealership model, when after you've signed on the dotted line and handed over your money, well, then they've sort of moved on, which does leave a bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, doesn't it? I will hopefully let you know a happy ending to that story, especially as my day job is working on the radio. I can't listen to the things that I meant to be listening to in her car because we can't pick it up. But anyway, I'm not whinging because we're very lucky to be able to do things like be able to buy cars. Thank you very much to the podcast Patreons of the show. I'm going to give you all a mention, as always, in a moment after we set a brand new question of the week. We always set a new question on a Sunday, and then please email me, contact me over the next week. The email address is hello@evnewsdaily.com. You got feedback on Facebook, on YouTube, on myev.com. The actual website, if you click on research at the top, and then you go to question of the week, give them a couple of days to get the new question up, and it is this. I was on Reddit earlier today, and maybe it was just an unfortunate set of posts I was looking at, but I saw 5 or 6 posts of all Tesla owners, and all of the superchargers were blocked. One of them was a big truck, like a big 5-axle truck, had just parked lengthways along them, blocking all 12. So here's my question. How do we solve the problem of people parking in charging bays? And I'm open to any suggestions. What do we do? How do we solve the problem of people parking in charging bays? Thank you very much to the 120 patrons of the podcast on patreon.com/evnewsdaily. I've mentioned Phil already. Phil Roberts from Electric Future, our premium partner. Thank you to Cesar Trujillo, who first said, I'll sign up as a partner level for a month just to my appreciation, then I'll reduce it down. And then 3 months later, he hadn't, and I was like, this is mad generous. Thank you so much. David Allen, partner of the show, OEM Audio of New Zealand and evpower.co.nz. If you're in New Zealand and you have an EV or you're curious, check out evpower.co.nz, and Sasha Pallenberg as well, who I was chatting to today on Twitter. Hello to Ashley Hill, Arid Gear Skalsveen, Bjard Fuchstak, Brian Weatherall, Chris Benson, Chris Hopkins, Darren Bird, David Partington, David Prescott, Damian Davis, Don McAllister, George Clargo, Jack Oakley, John Bailey, John H. Mayer, John Timmis, Kevin Mayerson, Louis Hopkin, Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, Marcel Ward, Maz Shah, Martin Croft, Matthew Ellis, Matthew Gruby, Neil E. Roberts, from Sussex EVs, Paul Stevenson, Paul Seeger-Smith, Philippe Calvet, Raj Badwell, Renee Schneider, Rod James, Scott Callahan, and our friends at the Limousine Line in Sydney. There are 306 previous episodes online for free, all thanks to those people who do support this show and keep it going, keep it running, make sure all the previous shows can stay online as an archive for free. If you subscribe, you don't have to think about downloading its show each day. It means you get it first and free and automatically. And if you could take 2 minutes to leave a little review on whatever platform that you download the podcast on, that means a lot to me as well. Come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow.